Okay, so I hope I don't stand corrected. I think we're up to section 1. Are they called sections?
Chapter 3.
Chapter 3, yeah. Let's see. Chelek, part 1. Part 1, chapter 3. Man. Okay. Oh man, here we come. Okay. So let's see how this all builds up. I would like to put forward a thought to you guys to just bear in mind as we read this. It seems to me that in final analysis, Derech HaShem is really about the individual, and Da'at Tvunot was really about the world. And of course, there's a huge overlap, but that's really the focus. Last week we did the purpose of creation. That's it. We did it. We're done. We found out. We can move on. And the purpose of creation was really that God wanted to bestow the greatest pleasure possible onto a being, and that being is man. And in order for man to get it, he has to earn it. And as they say, Shalom al Israel. So those Tvunas went a lot further than that about the purpose of creation. Then that was the fundamental beginning. But then he said, well, he had some very basic questions which got him into the whole makeup of what we would call maybe the purpose of this, or the way that works is by revealing God's oneness and man's place in the great revelation of man's oneness. Whereas we're not going to find that over here. We're finished. We're like, how does man get close to God? This is it. The rest of the book's going to tell us how to do that. So just something to bear in mind. Okay. Yeah, Ahmad, who would like to read? Uri, you're up to the challenge?
Okay. As we have discussed, man is the creature created for the purpose of being drawn close to God. He's placed between perfection and deficiency with the power to earn perfection. Man must earn this perfection, however, through his own free will and desire. If he were compelled to choose perfection, then he would not actually be its master, and God's purpose would not be fulfilled. It was therefore necessary that man be created with free will. Man's inclinations are therefore balanced between good and evil, and he is not compelled toward either of them. He has the power of choice, and he's able to choose either side, knowingly and willingly, as well as to possess whichever one he wishes. Man was therefore created with both a good urge, Yetzer Tov, and an evil urge, Yetzer Hara. He has the power to incline himself in whichever direction he desires.
So, from a anatomy point of view, a spiritual anatomy, it seems to be that we are not the Yetzer Hara, we are not the Yetzer Hara. These are things we have, but it's the person inside that chooses, right? Which when you side with the Yetzer HaTov, well, with the good urge, then you have inclined yourself towards that, and in a way become that. In a way, you have you've earned that that element of perfection that you might have chosen. Whereas the evil urge is the exact same thing. You can choose that, and then you will, you've defined yourself as that being. And of course, the good one brought you a little closer to God, and the bad one took you further away. Any other comments? Just by the way, sorry, I keep on forgetting that Lev is away with his family, and Ori is actually in Israel. So hence their absence from this great class.
I mean, is it an excuse? I chimed in from Afghanistan. I mean, you know,
There you go.
they want dedication.
Well,
While
were you on
under
a nice beach in Afghanistan?
Very scenic, very scenic. All the colors of dust you want.
Okay, keep going.
Yep.
In order that this goal be best achieved, the highest wisdom decreed that man should consist of two opposites. These are his pure spiritual soul and his unenlightened physical body. Each one is drawn towards its nature, so that the body inclines towards the material, while the soul leans towards the spiritual. The two are then in a constant state of battle. If the soul prevails, it not only elevates itself, but elevates the body as well. And the individual thereby attains his destined perfection. If he allows the physical to prevail, on the other hand, then besides lowering his spiritual self,
Oh,
he
sorry.
also leaves his body behind. All of this was written by the great screenwriter. Keep scrolling up, man.
John Carpenter.
Right, there you go. I didn't want to go there, but putting on the lenses of the angel of Satan, it is evident what must happen in the fullness of time.
Roddy Piper was here to read this.
Man is comprised of soylent green, and that is his final end. Okay, body, he also debases his soul. Such an individual makes himself unworthy of perfection and thus divorces himself from God. He still has the ability, however, to subjugate his physical to his soul and intellect, and thereby achieve perfection. God's goodness decreed that there be a limit to man's effort.
Hang on a second, Ori,
Okay.
sorry.
Yep.
So if we follow, let's try follow the anatomy idea, because I think that's a very good way to analyze this. Okay. What do we know so far? There's a good in a Yetzer Tov, a Yetzer Ra.
What confuses me is that he's suggesting two elements comprise man, and man has the power to choose. Or what is left? What is it that he's choosing? There's got to be a third something in there, right?
Well,
If
it's the he. He has the power to incline himself in whichever direction he desires. So it's he and his desire that is the mover. The good urge and the evil urge are elements, but not essential. Is that what you're asking?
I think in part two, even that thing which chooses, right?
Yeah.
The man consists of two opposites, his spiritual soul and his unenlightened physical
So
body.
that's what I want to put together, right? So now, let's see, in order for this goal to be best achieved, decreed that man should consist of two opposites. Now, it could be that the two opposites are the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara. They just, where are they? You could say his pure spiritual soul is the Yetzer HaTov, that's which urges a person to do good. His unenlightened physical body is that which is urging him to do bad. Each one is drawn to its nature so that the body inclines towards material while the soul leans towards the spiritual. Now, okay, you want to read it a different way? That
One spiritual soul can also comprise evil. There can be evil inclinations in your soul. Why does it necessarily have to be in your quote unquote physical body? I mean, I understand he's creating a model here. Just that to me, there's a third thing in the middle that's doing the choosing and the acting and the thinking. And
I think what he's saying in 2 is that thing that does the choosing, the man part, is also made of 2 opposites, each of which is inclined, one to the good
okay.
and one to the bad. Like that's
Okay.
the urge, the inclination.
And
I
is
think it's as though you've got
done-
like a magnet with 2 poles and one draws, one thing goes this way and one. It's a consistent interpretation. I don't know if it's what's intended.
Maybe so. Yeah.
Well, I hear what you're saying, because so you're saying that there's something, let's just draw a little diagram here, right? Here on the right is the Yetzer Tov, and here on the left is the Yetzer Hara. These are energies,
Poles
and then there's a man in the middle,
comprised of X and Y,
and he's split right down the middle, right?
mixed. Yeah.
And the soul is taking him to the Yetzer, is inclined towards this calling. Should we call it a calling?
Sure.
Where the Yetzer Hara is inclined towards this calling. Interesting. Okay. Why would?
Well, it's consistent with the
And
next
then-
sentence too. Each one drawn toward its nature, body inclines toward the material soul.
And then
If you assume the material is the bad, and which I don't love that. I don't love that the material is the bad and the spiritual is the good.
Uri's mentioned that. We'll talk about that.
Oh,
But
okay.
where's the free man? Right?
Right. He's in the middle of that line that you
There. He's standing
Yeah.
on the tightrope.
He's that mix, but he's the mix. He's both the good, the material and the physical and the spiritual.
Yeah.
He's inclined in both directions. The part that chooses is comprised of those things, that mix.
So you're saying like this, meaning if there was just an entity called man, which is free and chooses, there must be something about him that wants either way. Meaning, if the Hare Krishna knock on my door, I'm very nice, but I'm really not that interested. Been there, done that, right? So we're not gonna.
Did you?
We no.
Never.
No.
I'm now
He's
picturing you
gonna
with a
bring his drum
ponytail.
out.
I'm just
shortly.
referring to you being in Berkeley and
Sure.
imagining
That was me.
I'm trying to relate to you, Dan. But
You got me.
so you think, in order for me to want something, it must resonate with me somewhere. It's got to be within my inclination. So, but why isn't that enough then? Meaning, if I'm inclined to both, well, okay, my body, let's just, for argument's sake, right, go with what he said for now. The body is calling me towards a mundane,
Evil.
physical, debased world. Movies such as Your Life or whatever it's called, those days.
Right.
That's really deep, bad stuff. My soul is calling me to Derech HaShem and studying and doing mitzvot and the lovely good deeds and being nice, and watching Easy as Pie, in order that I could write to his parents afterwards and said, hey, I watched it, it's amazing. Why do I need something else called a Yetzer HaTov and a Yetzer Hara?
So what Don was initially saying is that they're almost outside of you. which is what those two things you drew in the beginning are. So Dunn's saying there are four things. There are these forces that exist, and then there's the person who has an inclination in his soul and his body, one
Right.
to each.
But
So it's not a unified thing yet necessarily, right, Dunn? Or is it?
Yeah, no, that's what you got it.
but
Which is a little funny.
it is a bit. And man was therefore created with both good urge and bad urge, right? Meaning, it wasn't the world. The world, if you told me, listen, the world offers a lot of different opportunities right here, and you find yourself inclined to both, you're this little guy on the tightrope, you got to make your choices. That would work for me. I don't know why. The question I have on why, yeah, is why we'd need both. Okay. Now let's look at this, because he says something very interesting here. Says the two are then in a constant state of battle. It's a very good translation, by the way. I read the Hebrew when you were reading the English, hence me not picking up that you had finished the page. And if the soul prevails, it not only elevates itself, but elevates the body as well. And the individual therefore attains his destined perfection. That's what you were meant to do. So here's your soul, right? We'll call it the S, and the B. Don't read. In Hebrew, we read left to right, S, B. Okay. So the soul is inclined to this Yetzer Tov, or goodness, let's call it now. And if it overcomes, it's interesting, right? If the soul prevails. Now, hang on a second. I thought there was a guy in the middle prevailing. But it sounds like
The guy is those two things.
Right.
I think
The
so. I think
substance
so.
of man is twofold.
Yeah.
so it's
Man
more
consists of two opposites.
like,
That's
this is you. You know,
that's the man.
conflicting being. And if you go that way, you choose that way. So then what happens?
So-
This whole thing shifts a little.
Does he later on elaborate this model by saying beyond these urges, there's a central core that is rational or something else other than just urges of good and bad? Does he later on go and elaborate on?
Not
kind
that
of
I
man?
remember.
Oh, okay. So this may be, so this is it. Okay. So this is the, if I say Manichaean, does that mean anything to anyone? The Greek Manichaean model, right? And the Manichaean model, it's Greek philosophy or thinking, which posits the same thing, that man is created of good and bad. There's a split, and it influenced the early Christian church and blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, I'm trying to see how and if this relates to other ways of viewing man, or if this is a Kabbalistic idea. I'm still getting my arms around it.
Zoroastrianism.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. Yeah.
It had the same sort of yeah. But there was not like a choice. There wasn't like good was better than bad in that, right? Some of the dualistic systems don't posit that one is better than the other.
Correct. I think in the Greek model, it's amoral in a sense. It's the fates, incline you towards bad or good outcomes or fate.
But this is clearly designating a preferred state.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's perfection to be gained.
Rabbi, just jumping forward, does he introduce other people into his model? So this is man and God. Does he come into your fellow men and society and family and social relations, or is this just man and God?
No, it definitely is going to bring in other people.
Okay. I understand the scope of his.
However, I don't think as a end, rather as a means. And by that I mean this elevation of man, this perfection of man is a very individual calling.
Okay.
It's not a communal calling, right? Which is very interesting, right? I'm fascinated about that question. Is there an idea of the perfected community? Maimonides, really, he loved that. He thought that was the Torah was about creating that. It seems like the Kabbalists and those that followed were, no, it's not the community is a means. I need you to be able to learn with you and to do chesed with you, so I can be elevated. There's a lot of logic to that, but it does seem to leave us
naked
a little. Okay, so the same is true, by the way, of when a person does, it follows the inclination to the follows his inclination in the wrong way or the bad way, let's call it, right? Get this big. That's what he said. If he allows the physical to prevail, such an interesting language. Adam, right? So the he does the allowing. You allow the physical to prevail. Then, besides lowering his body, you actually have an effect on your soul, which is very good, Dan, for what you're saying, because that's you. It had an effect on you. Right. Okay, so what are we saying? Here you're divided. All you do is you allow one of your, sorry, keep on going in circles. You allow one of your sides, which is inclined, either the neshama to good, the body to bad, you allow one of them to dominate, one of those inclinations to dominate. And once you do that, whichever way you went is a little strengthened in that direction, and the other one is weakened in its direction. So there's a very famous piece by Rav Dessler called what he calls the Bechira point. It's called, I think it's called the Kuntras HaBechira. He wrote a piece on free will. So he said, there's France fighting Germany in the First World War. And, we understand the whole of Germany is at war with the whole of France. But he says the battlefield is here. The battlefield's just a little section in between them. And should Germany push back the French, so then the battlefield will move a little. And, now it's here. And then the French, et cetera, et cetera. So he says, at any one point, let's say you make bad choices. You listen to the German side of you, right? You make bad choices. You're going to become more dominantly German. If you make good choices, and I hate to say French now, no, but I'm forced to. You are
make it Italy. Turn it into Italy.
Fine. Italians, the Italians. Okay. You're going to become better, a more elevated person. Okay. Just want to reread this first bit again. So then what was the See, we could, what was the Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer Tov? What are these things? He has the power to incline himself in whichever direction he desires.
Well, what does it mean to have an urge? It's itself an inclination, right? Is an urge not an?
I don't, I'm not convinced, Don, that there's these good and bad things are outside of the man. I think it's all one unit. I don't know that evil and good exist outside in the world, and that man also has these two urges, and he can move towards the outside worlds, evil and good himself. I don't know what we do. Are you sure we see that?
Doesn't
in
need
this
to be.
text?
Oh,
The first diagram.
What are the possibilities? Meaning, I feel quite okay to go back and say, oh, that's what he meant by the good urge and the bad urge. Meaning,
If good and bad are in the world, then God created them as we learned in Dat Venot. God
right,
allowed them to happen. What I'm not clear yet here is whether he's restating that or whether man is a closed system, so to speak. He's not.
I think
moving.
it's
because
a
look at the
component. You're
beginning
asking.
here.
Yeah.
That he is placed between perfection and deficiency.
Correct.
Man must earn the perfection, but he needs free will and desire.
Right.
There are two words there, I agree. I'm not.
But do they exist in the world outside of him, or are they inside him?
think both.
It seems to be from what we read
Both.
last week that the world was made. Various on number 4 in chapter 2. I'll just read to you. In order for all this to be possible, various different concepts of perfection and deficiency must exist. This creature must then be placed in an environment with access to them all, and thus have the ability to earn perfection and avoid deficiency. So I think that's consistent with Das Tvunos, that it's the world has elements which are
Right. The first part we did before this was that man was situated in the world before we even got to man.
right. Now we want to know how.
And is also the center of creation and existence, which we can maybe talk about at some point. I don't know.
into those days.
I mean, I have an urge to eat ice cream all day long. I also have an urge to, live a healthy life and eat steamed broccoli. And there is broccoli and ice cream in the world. So you can look at me and see which one I usually choose. Ice cream budget is much larger than my broccoli budget.
It's not obvious.
Yeah, you're looking pretty good there.
That army probably keeps you in Navy, whatever, Marines, I forget, something.
Farming.
That's it.
Knuckle dragging.
Yeah, I think I could if he's saying what I think he's saying now, that I am made up of two parts. I like that. There is a decision-making part to me, which is a little separate. I'm able to hear the two voices within, right? Do this, don't do that. One is the pulling of my soul, one is the pulling of my body. There's a world out there with possibility for both, and I'm moving. I become an elevated person when I choose broccoli. I become a more base person when and I'm really allowing either the soul to it's an interesting language there. I don't know. Yeah, that's easier than there being 4 parts. Could you describe the 4 parts, Dan?
Man is situated in the, it's not that it's parts. The whole thing happens on, I mean, I'm predicting a little bit based on the last book we read, that the thing you drew before as a left and a right is actually a spectrum, and God's presence is on one side and his absence is actually on the other.
Okay.
And the man in the middle is made of these 2 substances. The spiritual inclines to God. The
Right.
physical part inclines toward the physical urges, which are in the shadow, if I remember how that used to be
Yeah.
from the last book.
In the shadow.
And so whether you treat it as I don't know how to put it, the phrase good can apply to things both, or the phrase spiritual can apply to both the soul and other things, and the term material can apply to the body and also other things. So to the degree that the body is drawn to the material, you could say that that's the material of the body, or just the material nature of reality. Whether that's inside or outside, semantics, and I'm not really, I could take that either way. So whether you draw it as for me, if you draw a point separately, it doesn't mean it's a different thing. I'm not expressing this very clearly, but did that come across at all?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Sorry, I don't. No clue.
The material is either in the nature of the body. Is it drawn to its own material nature, to its own, the material nature of the body, or is it drawn to the material in the broader sense of the world, like the material nature both of the body and beyond? In that phrase, each one is drawn toward its nature, so that the body inclines toward the material while the soul leans toward the spiritual.
Okay.
Is that to its own spiritual essence, or is that to the broader? It makes more sense to me to take it to the broader sense of the.
Yeah, I agree, in the sense that there has to be temptation out there, outside of you. There has to be something real which you incline towards, like temptation.
Right.
Man is not all of creation. We're not
Right.
in this solipsistic state. We definitely have this man on the stage of the world.
Right.
And I think the world, he would also say, is probably 2-part, I would guess, a spiritual and a material component to the world.
Yeah, he's already said that before in the previous section.
Yeah. Okay. So
Okay, good.
So
I think I can go with that.
okay.
Does that ring true when you make that decision, Jason, that daily decision between ice cream and broccoli? What does the decision? Does it? I don't like his passive phrase. Actually, it bothers me a lot. You allow the body, right? What did he say? If he on the other hand, if he allows the physical to prevail, which is interesting, he didn't say that, he didn't use the term for the soul, by the way. He kind of said it more positively. I'm just checking the Hebrew. If the soul strengthens, right? If the soul prevails, there's all this good thing happens. And if the man allows the physical to prevail, does it feel passive in any way?
Yeah, I think there's something to this too, though, because the soul is the part of you that exists and persists. So there might be a sense in which the man is more the soul than the physical. Because the other thing from the last book is there were these periods of time, like during the time of this world, the man is both this mix of the physical and the spiritual. After death, the physical boils away and what's left is just the spirit. And then the world to come, there's this purified physical form that's now elevated again. Do I have that right?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that, right?
But the physical is the base state here.
Yeah.
Like if you don't do anything, you're going to go towards the physical.
It's also not the part of you that, it's the part of you that gets burned off. It's not the eternal part.
Saying it's not as essential.
It's essential in this phase.
Right.
So we're two part in this phase. But I think the reason why it might be that one is treated passively and one is given more of a role. Like you asked who chooses. There's some sense in which your feeling is your soul is the thing that's choosing. I don't mean to put answers in Jason's mouth, but if I would have guessed that that's sort of who we think is driving. And then sometimes we give up and let the body win.
Right, but it's an active thing to go to the soul's path, or is it a more passive thing to go? You have to actively strive to do those things.
This is a world in which there's no chance, luck, or serendipity, right? It's a world that is driven by your choices. There's no
How do you
random.
say that, Uri?
I don't know, it says that.
I'm not sure that I'm just wondering about your question. I'm not sure I agree with you.
I'm just
I'm
trying to
not sure I
understand the world
disagree
is.
with you, but
I'm trying to understand the world is creating, and it's a world where things are determined. There are things out there that are available to you, and then your choices determine what becomes of you, and that's it. There's nothing beyond that. There's no random occurrence. I'm going to the problem of good things happening to bad people and bad things happening to good people. That problem he doesn't acknowledge as a problem so far as I can see.
He did that in the last book
The other
too.
book did, yeah.
And
Did he?
his
okay.
answer was that
Okay.
if you're a good person, bad things will happen to you to make you a better person.
I see. Okay.
And
Okay.
to serve as an example to other people of how good you can, how good the world can be in that
I
way.
see. Okay.
But if you knew that bad things were happening to you for that reason, then it would be easy to take it and to keep doing good things.
Okay.
So there's also a component of what you do gives you rewards or punishment. So sometimes if you do good things will happen to you in reward.
Okay.
But you don't know which system is working, because if you did, then you wouldn't have free choice anymore.
Right. Gotcha. Thank you. That's helpful.
And it's also to do with like good happens to good people in aggregate. It's not necessarily an individual thing. So as everyone goes up and does good things, more good things will happen to them. But individually, it's sort of by chance. You just increase the odds, I guess.
But as intended by God, as I remember right, everything had a reason and was intended. Like there was a rational plan behind all of it.
I don't think it works this way, but Uri, just to put it out there as a possibility, in this paradigm, let's say it is a random world where things are just happening. But your choices of what you do in that world are meaningful, right? So a bad thing could happen. It's not your fault. It's pretty random, but you make good of it. That could be a very good plan, actually. That I don't think that is what's happening. I think there is more oversight, plan, right? As in God's plan.
But there was a sense that that's even, I used the wrong word to say rational before. It's super rational. It's beyond our understanding. So from our perspective, it might as well be random. There's some amount of, if something is beyond your understanding, there's a level in which it's, to you, effectively random.
Yeah.
Although, yes, but doesn't that just present itself a challenge to you to to believe that it's not, or to believe that there is a good reason behind this. Doesn't randomness.
I can't tell if it was mazal or if it was reward and punishment. I can't tell the difference. So how am I going to know whether how am I ever going to work out a rational cause if either one of those possibilities could be at work?
Because either one really do make sense. Even mazal makes sense.
Right. So
in a supernatural way that we.
So to me, as an ant or as a third grader, I forget the analogy we had in the last book, but it's not for me to understand. It's not at a level. To me, it'll seem random. My kids probably have no idea when trash day is. So when the trash is taken out to them, it's probably a random occurrence.
Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah.
When
On a
honestly,
non-related note.
honestly, to me, it's a random occurrence. I need my wife to remind me. Like, oh, it's trash night. Okay.
No, honestly, you reminded me because whenever we have these Monday holidays,
That's right.
it doesn't occur to me that Tuesday feels like Monday. So trash day on Wednesday. I mean,
You see, but there's a plan.
there you go. I mean,
But it feels random.
If this isn't proof to the system,
the great God public works reigns.
So glad I pray.
I don't know what it is.
Any day that accent comes out is a good day.
I don't know what we need anymore. Friends, it's right with us. Okay. Okay. Just okay, I like what we've built or understood.
Glad we've made it 2 pages.
I don't know if we made it 2 pages.
It's
The font is so tiny.
it's not
6.5 inches. What do you want?
Okay.
It is. It's very light. You could take it anywhere.
Okay. Okay. Such an individual makes himself unworthy of perfection and thus divorces himself from God. He still has the ability, however, to subjugate the physical to his soul and intellect and therefore achieve perfection. Why does he add this on only on this side of the equation? I guess because the other side is fine, right? We're happy if man subjugates himself to his soul and it elevates himself and becomes perfected and close to God. Story over, party over. Oops, all right, we're done. It's when man goes wrong that then maybe what happened with God's reason in creation, like you're actually worse off than you started, not better off. So maybe, obviously this is the part of the place for teshuvah, the ability to repent, to return. And he's just, I think his point is, don't think when you debase yourself, you ever debase yourself beyond possibility of return. It's interesting, by the way, just while we're here, and maybe I don't know if it might be too much to do another section. The Rambam, Maimonides, has a famous commentary. It's a big problem, right? When God hardens Pharaoh's heart. What happened to free will? The Maimonides says God took it away. Says there is a stage when a person debases himself so much that God then takes away their free will. They become, beyond. There is no way to come back, which is interesting, right? That means that this this caveat that he's putting in here has a limit. It seems from the Hasidic writers that there's no place for no return.
There's always salvation.
Thank you. Those same people be knocking at your door, Dan?
They get around.
They get to you.
Yeah.
Hare Krishnas?
No, I don't think that's Hare Krishna. The salvation bit. That's different. Different folks at your door.
Okay.
Yeah,
Less drums.
I never understood what the Hare Krishnas really were offering me.
Flowers, I think.
My hairstyles. I don't know what the guy was on. Anyway,
I'm definitely gonna Photoshop a ponytail onto a picture of you. That's gonna have to happen. Sorry.
Okay, so that's what they say, that the there's this idea of the pintelayid, the spark is said in Jewish terms, that the spark of the Jew can never be extinguished. So that means there's always some calling to come back. And as we learned from Das Tfunas, right? Man was on a certain level, debased himself. Even down here, he's got to get back up there again and then further up. Okay.
On the plus side, the folks that weren't here didn't miss very much of the text, so they could probably catch up with ease.
Yeah, there you go.
There's an upside. I'm a real silver lining kind of guy.
Good.
Good.
I
It's
like
good.
that.
It's good.
He says that ever.
Okay. Okay. Olam hazeh, olam haba. Yeah. Good. Let's call it a night. Let's call it a night. It was a little in text, but a lot in thinking and trying to work out what's going on, and very fruitful, actually. Thank you.
It actually, I read a little bit ahead as we were, and
Yeah,
it does look like we were in the right direction.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we could have kept going, and maybe
It would have been resolved
Yeah.
better, somewhat resolved.
oh wait, it's in the next paragraph.
And lo, he partook of the broccoli, and behold.
That's in the annotated version. We need that.
Oh, okay.
That other.
Oh, yeah.
The Book of Vegetables, Chapter 4, paragraph.
Which is 10 inches by 8 inches and 15 point, and has 10 pages, but each is very weighty. Sodden in potato grease.
If you look at the back over here, though, it does say
What is
that
this?
it's a new amended
Teeny tiny.
contemporary reader, newly typeset.
Newly typeset.
So apparently, contemporary readers like minuscule.
Youngsters.
Yes,
It's intended for
these
youngsters.
days with their
Guys, I have an idea for you. Take pictures of the pages and then, zoom
I got
in.
a full page magnifier.
You could do that.
It'll prepare me for my, visual decline to come.
You can put it around, you can wrap it around your skull as well, Don, and that'll prepare for your mental decline.
Just right here. I'll just wear
That's
it right
right.
here
That's
all
right.
the time. Walking around.
Then enlarge
Hey,
your-
everybody, hello.
Enlarge your horizons.
I heard there's a new Minions movie, so you could take it with you.
By John Carpenter. It's his adaptation of They Live with starring the Minions.
All right,
No more than-
gentlemen.
no more
If you
than 10
if you
no
put on
more
the glasses and people turn into
no more than 10 actors in every Minion movie. Okay.
everybody have a great week.
I'll be Tuesday. I'll be starting my drive. So
wow,
I will,
yes.
I will try and check in from. I think Little Rock will be
Oh,
where I'll be stopping for Tuesday night. But in case I start late, I may not get there, but I'll try.
Safe drive.
Yep. Yep.
and an easy move.
Yeah.
Well, and the
surrounded by
easiest
boxes.
as possible move.
Yeah.
Should we short sheet your beds in timonium or give you a decent? We shouldn't bug the apartment that you're moving to, right? We should
No,
be nice.
yeah.
Okay.
I've got this big Yetzirah problem that I keep on. Right.
It's the Eitzah Hatov.
It's that
Right.
material. It's that material body of yours.
And I'm going to put a big
To no good.
big tub of ice cream at the base of his bed and a tree of broccoli at the head. See what he does then. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Good week,
Night,
everyone.
everybody.
Hey, guys.
Okay. Bye.